Qlik Dork back again, and today I am filming episode 16 of my Dorkcast. Sweet 16. I've got my friends from Motio along for the ride today. We're going to be talking to Brandon Sullivan, who's a software implementation engineer. Brandon, I've shared your profile here. I hope it's okay if you get some new connections. Is that all right with you?
That is perfectly okay with me. Happy to connect.
Feel free to screenshot that because I know you're a savvy bunch out there in Qlik Dork land. I know you've got multiple monitors. Feel free to take a screenshot and go ahead and collect with Brandon right now. Hopefully we'll hear ping, 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 ping. And his following and friends will grow. And I've also got Edwin van Megesen, who's the Vice President of Business Development. And I understand you also wear a lot of other hats. Is that right, Brandon or Edwin?
Yeah, absolutely. Responsible for marketing, sales, but also implementation and the support desk, and Qlik ambassador.
And a Qlik ambassador. I love that.
I got my little middle stone here as well too.
You've got a data brick for a cathedral. I love it. I love it. You're the real deal if I gave you one of those, buddy. And this is Edwin's profile again. Feel free to screenshot that so you've got that address. And definitely do go out and connect with them. For those of you who've not heard of Motio, you can go out to Motio.com. Again, I know you got multiple monitors. You may not be watching this all live. You may just have it kind of as background noise. Feel free to go to Motio.com, and you're going to see some groundbreaking headline news. Motio has acquired Qlik Sense Document Analyzer Pro. That is from my good buddy Rob Wunderlich that I just had on a Dorkcast 2 weeks ago. And guys, why in the world would a tool that is going to do what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about Soterre. Why in the world, with a company that delivers that kind of tool, why would you get Motio? Or why would you buy QSDA Pro?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And basically what we have to do is go back and think a little bit what we want to achieve, because it's not about Motio, it's not about Soterre, QSDA Pro, it's not even about Qlik. It's about helping our customers get a competitive advantage with using analytics, right? And of course they use Qlik for that. But what we want to achieve for our customers is that they can deliver very quickly analytics. And whether you're a retailer and Black Friday is coming up and you need these new analytics, whether you're a university and you want to acquire new students and you need your analytics for that, you want it to be delivered fast and quickly. And in order to do that, you want to have DevOps in place to be sure that you increase the flow of analytic delivery, that it is secured, accurate, and also that it's fast. And that's DevOps. That's what we are focusing on. And I'm happy to talk about that and more about DevOps and how QSDA Pro fits into that picture.
So wait a second here. I know that both Brandon and I were just chomping at the bit to dive into the demo and just see stuff and show cool features. I suppose me and Brandon have to wait for a few minutes. If you've got some slides to talk about DevOps is a big thing. I mean, I'm more of a demo guy.
Yeah.
But I come from a 30-year IT background prior to being the Qlik Dork, and I certainly believe in that. So if you've got some slides, and we could understand how your vision that Motio has for DevOps and the Qlik in the environment, and then how Document Analyzer fits in. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm old-fashioned as well. I have books, so I would recommend everybody to read the Phoenix Project. It's an amazing book to talk about DevOps, and it's written in a style of a novel. And it's about a guy, Bill Parker, who is called at the CEO and basically gets an offer because his boss is being laid off. And he doesn't want that job, but he takes it because he has to take it. Yeah. And then all problems arise, everything goes wrong. And in this journey, in this book, you learn how he implements DevOps. So it's a very appealing book to read and understand, okay, well, how do I do that? If you're
for those who are like me and you generally read technical books and you think, man, I just don't have the time to read another technical book. It is written as a fictional book.
Yeah.
So it's smooth reading. You're reading a story. You know, I'm big on stories. So it is a storytelling view. And yet you get those great concepts and lessons learned about DevOps.
And the funny part of the book was, and that really triggered me, is that he meet that guru Eric, who kind of teach him how to implement this, and he is releasing, and takes him like 3 months or 4 months to bring something to production. And Eric tells him, no, you have to deploy 10 times a day. And he's like, that's impossible. That, you know, I can bring it maybe from 2 months to 6 weeks or 5 weeks, but you're crazy. And that means that he has to change the way he thinks, to change the way he acts, and that brings us back to the basics of DevOps. And if you want to read, you know, the Bible of DevOps, then, and you know, the thick theoretical academic book, then this is the one to read. But the good thing about these books is that it says we want to create a repeatable, reliable delivery process. And in Qlik world, that means a reliable process of delivering apps and sheets, information to the business users. And one of the basic principles of DevOps is automate everything. Take out the human steps in the process.
Yep.
And take everything under version control. And that's what we want to do. So I have a few slides to set the stage, but that's the principle of DevOps: automate everything, because that creates a reliable and repeatable process. So
I think it's huge, because one of the things typically with IT and development, you've got this one giant beast of an app that you schedule out and you got milestones for, and you deploy it, and you start collecting changes that are going to go into version 2 next year, right? In the old world, there was one mammoth app. In the analytics space, there is constantly business user teams that are getting new apps, new analytics apps that have so many components to them. So I think the DevOps approach, and in a manner that is a much more agile manner, is really urgent, and which is obviously why I had you guys on. So yeah, go ahead and share those screens so we can take a look at your
absolutely. And a lot of people say, oh, DevOps, yeah, connect to Git, right? Then I have DevOps. But that's not what it is, because we have to think about the elements that the Qlik app is different than that. But let me share my screen here. See if I can do. Can you see my screen?
I can.
So this is how.
Hey, that's a good-looking guy on the right side there with the bow.
Yeah. The left side a little bit different, right? But on the right side, that's the one. Yeah. So this is how I introduced Motio to my customers. I said, who Motio? I said, this is Motio, and we are in Texas, proud of the Dallas Stars and the Cowboys, of course. But a global organization and focusing on DevOps. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about DevOps, and I talk with a lot of directors of business intelligence that have implemented Qlik, you know, they don't have branching and merging that they have in IT development. They have quality issues, and how can they detect them early in the process and fix them? They have external people coming into their team, leaving their team. So how can they capture knowledge that is being built up about these apps? Like you said, there are some very complex apps there, and knowledge is leaking away. And then, of course, there is no rollback if you delete it, and you show that at Qlik World. If you delete it, it's gone, right? If a power user deletes their community sheets, yeah, I'm sorry, it's gone. And then, of course, deployment. So is there a way where we can do that? And that are the key elements of DevOps that I mentioned. The Phoenix project, I recommend everybody reading that. And then if you want to go really deep, use this book, because that's the kind of the Bible of continuous delivery. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about Soterre and how do we address these topics. And Soterre is bedazzled by GitHub Clock to make it beautiful and powered by QSDA Pro. And one of the principles is automate everything. That means that we want to have zero touch version control. I don't want to do in checkout, check-in, all these kind of additional administrative actions that you have to do when you work with Git. No, it has to be in the back end. It has to be done automatically, seamless in your way of working. And then, of course, how do we look at an app? Now, not as a binary file, but we look at an app as a container with individual components, the load model, the load process, the sheet, the bookmark, the story. That means that if we have that very complex app and you are working on the load process, but I have to fix 4 or 5 sheets or add them, whenever I'm ready, deploy. Don't wait till the whole app is ready. Deploy that one part, because that speeds up the process. And that's what Brandon is going to show you today, how that granularity helps customers to be faster and deliver faster.
Nice.
So branching and merging, very important, because if you are working on the load process in Sense and you publish, but I was working on at the same time on the sheets, we can step on each other's toes, right? So branching and merging is something, using templates is something that is very important. And then we get to the inspection and testing, and that's why QSDA Pro is so important, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Audit ready, when people come in and they say, hey, this is a very important app, this contains data, financial data, and can you prove to me that nobody changed it after the last test? Well, how do you prove that something didn't happen, right? That's pretty hard. And
well, I tell you what, Edwin, when I got posed, if compliance would come and say, I need to know, I would just walk down the hall to each and every one of the cubes and just ask them nicely. And I trusted. I'd be like, did you change something? They'd be like, yes, I did. They were always willing to admit changes, the CEO was screaming about. It was a very friendly working environment. Is that not the same everywhere else, I guess?
Indeed, and auditors they can be very strict, right? And you tell him something and they say no, I want proof. And especially when it's accountants, it gets even more stricter, right? And we know at large organizations that the CFO is responsible for the financial reporting. So having auditing in place and compliance in place is very, very important for organizations.
Yeah.
Not in the sales organization, right? We want to know what happens. We want idea, but financial information, you have to be precise.
Yeah.
And then analytics over analytics. And I want to talk a little bit about that because as a responsible BI director, and I preach analytics to my business, and I say, you have to compete on analytics. How much analytics do I have over my own processes, over my own delivery? So I'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll show you how that works as well. But
Brandon, he's setting you up, Brandon. You've got a lot to show, pal.
Yeah.
But back to the man with the hat, right? So we're so proud and so happy that Rob joined our team, and he spoke during your podcast about that. But what I want to add to that is if I look at this process from a BI director's perspective, I say, yeah, that's very nice, Dalton, that you test your app with QSDA Pro and you fix it. But what I'm interested in, what are our commonly made mistakes? If I have 10 developers or 15 developers, how do I educate my developers? Because if we always make these mistakes, right, and we always have to fix them, why don't I educate them in such a way that, the master measures with these same definitions, guys, let's stop doing that, right? So I can, if I understand from all the apps, all the mistakes that we make, then I can use that as an input for testing. I can use that as an input for educating people that come to my team or contractors. I say, this is our way of working and you have to pay attention to this because I know that. And that
is huge. That's if for anybody who follows me, reads anything, I talk about the master items all the time.
Correct.
Because what I hear a lot is, I don't have adoption. I worked hard on this. I read all the visualization books. I built a beautiful screen and nobody's using my app. Well, it's because nobody trusts a lot of the apps because they see a number and a KPI on app 1 and it tells them 10. And in another app, it's called something different with 10, or it's got the same name, but it shows 15.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so, yeah, I absolutely believe in that. And in tying that part of the process, and it's not to be strict or governed in terms of I'm going to smack your hand.
No, absolutely
I
not.
value what you do.
Yeah.
Now let's make sure that a lot of end users are using it so that you can take more pride in what you do instead of you feeling bad and your morale being low because they're not using it because they're not sure if they can trust it.
And continuously improvement is the base of DevOps. So
Yep.
we want to bring that back, but we will go a step further. We will set business rules in Soterre that if an app meets a certain requirement, for example, it has been changed and is ready for deployment, we will test it automatically. You don't have to do that anymore. We will test it for you. But the next step will be even.
So when you say you test it for me, you're meaning you're going to run it through QSDA Pro in the background.
In the background, and we will give you back the results automatically. So you don't even have to do anything.
And that is hot. That is really hot.
And we will go even a step further. Now, if I know there are several master measures, let's say in the example that Rob gave us, there are 8 and they have different definitions.
Yep.
I can automatically update Qlik. Why would I ask you to do that and go in and look them up and change them? Because Soterre knows everything. And Soterre could say, which one do you want to be the leading one? This one, we can update the next one. So we have a very bright future of what we are going to do with QSDA Pro, automatically detect, but then give that back to you as a developer and then automatically mass update apps so that you don't have to go in. You just say, yes, accept, this is a good one. And the tool will update it for you.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy good, but crazy
good, but all with the idea we have to deliver faster, increase the flow of project work to production, and if we can take out these manual steps and automate it, everybody wins.
Yep, absolutely.
So how do these tools then work together? Soterre will connect to your dev environment, your prod environment, to your cloud environment. That doesn't really matter. As many environments as you want. We can put it in a backing store, a Git repository, and we can push it to your corporate Git. Because a lot of organizations do code scanning and vulnerability scanning, and they have to have set it up in Bitbucket, etc. So they want it to be there just for those processes that they do for all the applications.
Sure.
And then, of course, we have QSDA Pro as our testing engine in that whole configuration together with GitHub, and that's how these tools work very nicely together in this whole architectural setup.
That's cool.
Now, one of the things that I personally like is that if you are on Sense, you want to do branching and merging, but you can step on each other's toe. If you brought something to your personal workspace last week, and I did today, and I start working on it, and you will publish over me. Now, sometimes you want to work together in parallel, but sometimes you don't. So one of the things that we'll do is we'll give you collision detection. It will say, hey, Dalton is working on this app. If that's intentionally, that's okay. But if that's not intentionally, maybe you should give him a call and maybe talk with him what he is doing and what you are doing so that you can merge again later on, or that he doesn't publish it over you. Yep. So are very handy things that we see every day when we drive a car, but we should also have that, of course, in Qlik Sense.
Love it. Absolutely.
And then the last thing is my favorite, right? You heard Rob say, yeah, I eat my own dog food. It sounds a little bit negative. I say, drink your own champagne. And Qlik is our champagne, right? And
absolutely. I like it.
Every BI director should have BI over BI. Every BI director should have Qlik dashboards over Qlik, the Qlik monitoring, incorporate that with change management, with testing history, with all that together in a Qlik app so that you have your own DevOps KPIs and can report on that. So drink your own champagne and use Qlik yourself to manage your process.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Now, did I set the stage for Brandon or not?
I think the bar is really, really high.
Extremely high. Extremely high.
Hopefully the caffeine is kicking in there, buddy. because we're gonna need to see this. We're gonna need to see it quick. Before you get to showing this, what you're gonna show today, I believe, is gonna be the client managed version of what you do, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
that is correct. Yes.
Now, for those of you who are in Qlik Cloud, which of course I hope you are, and I am, what I showed when the slide that Edwin showed at Qlik World, I demonstrated Soterre in the cloud from my Qlik Dork tenant. And so I know that your investment with them is safe. It can work in the cloud. But we're going to see the client managed version today. But be thinking this can all happen with the cloud as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Brandon, go ahead and show your screen there for us, buddy.
Let's do that. Let's do it. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let me know when you guys can see it. And let's go ahead and begin.
I can see a Qlik Sense hub there with a couple applications.
Perfect. Let's go ahead, and that's going to be our jumping off point. So right now we're sitting in our dev environment, our Qlik dev. And so I'm just going to set the stage a little like Edwin does and kind of prepare us for what we expect to see and what we'll be going through today. Okay. So a lot of what we'll be doing, we're going to use this fleet surplus auction app here. And I'm just going to go walk through it just to show you it's a very standard robust application, nothing that you would expect out of the ordinary. It's going to be an application with 3 public sheets. We're going to have 5 different bookmarks, a story here, and everything will load and render as functional as a normal application would, right?
That looks like an application to me, yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. No magic tricks behind the scenes or anything. This is a perfectly working demo or example application.
Click on one of those items, though. Click on like white or something like that. All right, I see stuff interacting. It's not a PowerPoint slide.
Not a PowerPoint slide. Not a PowerPoint slide at all.
Just making sure you're not a PowerPoint demo guy.
For sure, no. And we definitely try to avoid that because this is all real stuff. So what I'm going to do next is just to show what I'll be playing with. Let's switch into Soterre, and then we're going to make some changes throughout. We're going to switch back and forth between these tabs. I'll kind of maybe go show something in Soterre. We'll come back here. We're going to duplicate and edit this, publish this, and we're going to see that these changes are being picked up in Soterre. And as Edwin mentioned, no user process changes. I don't need to do a checkout and check in. We'll see that. That the changes I'm making, they're going to be detected, they're going to be picked up, and they're going to be picked up individually for each of these objects. So,
all right,
again, I don't have to do any magic, pull the strings behind the scenes. Everything is running for me.
Okay, so let's see. It says Soterre here.
Yes, let's jump into Soterre. And so now going into Soterre, I'm going to click my Explore tab here just to show we've got this environment set up to where we're actually connected to multiple different BI tools, BI environments. So this one Soterre is connected to 5 different environments. We've got it connected to Power BI, 2 of our SaaS solutions. And as we mentioned, we're going to be showing a lot in Qlik Sense. But if I were to click on these and actually log in here, this is completely valid, right? These spaces are all under version control. Everything is here. We version everything. So it's perfectly applicable to the SaaS solutions.
Now, before you go on, to the Power BI and other tools, Qlik's the only tool that's out there in my mind.
Absolutely.
I know in the out there in the world there are organizations that have different teams using different tools for the needs that team may have or that things are specialists for. So I kind of admire the fact that while I would love for it to only be showing Qlik, if organizations need to see their other tools as well, because if I'm actually getting a view to manage this thing, I kind of need to see all my assets. So I do admire and acknowledge that that's needed. So, and again, we're going to be looking at demos from Qlik Sense on-prem. But you can see how easy that is. You simply set up different tenants, and as you're showing there, you've got a development, a test, a demo, a prod, and you can have as many of these connections as you desire, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is completely correct.
Cool.
All right, so let's jump further. So let's go click on my Qlik Sense development here. And we're going to talk about tags, jobs, and even the integrations in a bit. But let's just jump into what a project is and kind of walk through the projects, then start to, again, get our hands on and get our hands dirty with playing with that application. Okay. So our projects are kind of just ways for you to start to organize all those different streams and different elements within your environment. So of course, we're going to have one master project or admin project that's going to have everything, all of our different streams, all of our QMC elements that are being versioned. But also I can create these sub little projects, maybe a marketing project that just has a few of my streams. Maybe I have 4 in my main environment, but this one I just want to do 2 because maybe my marketing folks only want to see.
And I'm assuming you just use that little plus sign or something in projects to create a new project.
Yep. That's exactly what I do. Create a new project. Then I can add what's going to be within that project. And then I can add my users within that and then give them specific access, right? Who can edit the project, who can review deployments and requests to be able to do those deployments.
That's nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so let's step into maybe this admin project. Okay. And you'll see, again, we've got all of those QMC elements being versioned. If I go and show here, personal work, all the streams, content libraries, data connections, every single element that you've got within Qlik that we can see, we can version.
Even extensions. So I would see what version of my extensions are out there.
Right. And if you were to publish a new one, you would see that new version pop up, right? And
it's man, because sometimes you might change an extension and you're not seeing the right thing in your app.
Yep.
I love it. Wow. And you log security rules and everything.
Everything that we can see, everything that, is able to be versioned. We do version. We do.
That's crazy.
Okay, so let's jump in our streams here. So I think I was playing with data analysis. We're again playing with that fleet surplus auction app. So let's take a walk into there. So data analysis, fleet surplus auction app. And so if I were to click on this application, again, we've got everything we can see. So alternate states, attached files, those bookmarks that we were just talking about, we've got 5. We also show the private and community ones if there are any, dimensions, measures. Each of these elements are being versioned individually. So that way you can do what Edwin said. You can maybe make a change to one of them and you don't have to deploy the entire application to get the change across. Just deploy the one thing that you changed. That way it's not a whole big, huge process every time. You can kind of really get to that agile cycle of, okay, I changed this one element. Let's just move that across.
Nice.
And then of course, when we're looking at this auction app, we can do things like check out the properties of the entire app. And if we were to do this, kind of similar to the information you can get within the Qlik Sense, right? See the path to that, how I got here, description, thumbnail, admin, all these different little things that you can see from Qlik. We try to replicate that as close as possible. But then we can get into what's important, timeline, what things have changed over time, what elements of this application have been updated or changed. We can tag them, add them to cases, and we'll kind of see that in just a little bit where I can make a change. I can tie that to maybe one of my ticketing systems out there and say, okay, well, I was assigned to change this. Let's go ahead and document that I've done that. And so this timeline is kind of showing us all of those different changes across the board. And we can kind of, as we make changes to the application and publish them, as we're right about to see, we're going to come back to this timeline tab and you'll see that it does get updated in real time.
That is crazy cool. So if that compliance or officer comes back to me from now on, I can say, oh, let me see. Hugo is the one that deleted that object, or Hugo changed that measure. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me jump again. One more thing, and again, continue to set the stage a little bit, so that way we can kind of work through this and start going through some change history, kind of similar to the timeline tab, but instead it's just showing us just total changes to the application. Okay. And so you'll see again, version 1 we added back 2019. Since then, we've got 14 main kind of publishes or changes to this application, which is why we've got 15 different versions sitting out here. We can do things like compare between versions. I can choose to edit these change events and tie it to something. As I was just saying, I can say, well, this latest change, maybe I want to say that this is, I should add a tag to it. I can add the issue tracking. I can maybe add this to one of my cases. Maybe I've got some issues out there, some Jira cases I've created. Maybe I change a bar title. I can link to these ticketing systems and I can kind of say, okay, well, again, this specific change that I made is related to this specific Jira case or this Jira ticket I was assigned. That way.
Wow, wait a second. So you were integrated with change management systems.
Yes.
It's
now
almost like you guys really believe in DevOps or something. That's crazy.
Almost. You would maybe we're fooling you just a little bit into thinking we care, but no, we really do. That is awesome. Yeah. And so let me see here. If I go ahead and just say demo change, and then you just go ahead and say okay, and we go ahead and link up there. You'll see, of course, I've changed it right there in my comments. I've got the issue tracking. Let's see if I'm logged in here. And so I am perfectly logged in. It takes me to my case here, and you'll see that it links me. In my case, I jumped directly into it. We send a message across saying that this was, we referenced this ticket in one of our changes here. And if I were to click on that change, it takes me right back to Soterre, into the change I made. So everything is kind of pointing to each other behind the scenes. That way everything's
I
working.
love it. I love it, because DevOps is a bigger than just one view. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely, it is.
Okay. I love that. That's really cool.
Right. And then just one more thing to kind of point out here before we, again, jump back to the thing is all of these different changes that we're making, whether it's on the timeline between these different objects or just between the applications, we can do comparisons. We can really see what has changed between these versions. So if I wanted to compare this version to the prior one, or this version to an older one, I can do comparisons. I can even just jump back and look at the properties of, how did this look back in version 3? Were there many major changes? Let's look at the event. Let's look at how the artifact looked, maybe what the thumbnail was, any of the properties that might have been changed. I can start to use this change history and not just see that changes were made, but see what those changes exactly were.
So I imagine we're going to make some changes here live, and then we'll come look at the change history for that. All right, cool.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
See, there's nothing up your sleeve.
Nothing up my sleeve. No magic.
All right, let's go make some changes to that fleet surplus.
So I'm going to go back into my Qlik environment. Let's just do a normal process. We're going to duplicate this. That way I've got it saved into my personal work. We're going to do some very, very basic changes here. I'm not a Qlik wizard or anything. I'm going to add a bunch of crazy calculations or anything. No, let's just do some very simple things. Okay. So we're going to jump into the application. We'll see here, once the app is open, let's just start off with a really basic change, maybe a really fun one. Let's just delete one of the sheets here. Regional fleets. Goodbye.
We'll never get it back.
Oh, never gonna get it back. Don't worry. We'll see.
You got more demos later today.
If I do, don't worry. I'll get it back. I'll get it back. Let's also do some other things here. Let's maybe jump into, say, this retired equipment sheet. I'm going to edit this. Maybe I want to change the name on a chart here. Maybe it shouldn't say color of retired equipment. Maybe it should just be called retired equipment by year. Simple change. Maybe I jump into another one and I say, let's jump into this sheet. Let's add a new bookmark, something like a demo bookmark. I'm just going to make a bunch of little changes here that we should be able to see in real time, picked up by Soterre.
We better, because that compliance officer could be coming by my cube by lunch.
Right. And so let's do one more change. I'm going to load up my data load editor, and you'll see here in my properties right here, you'll see I've got two property sets that are exactly the same here. So
you probably duplicated it.
I probably duplicated it, and if I probably one, and then I go ahead and hit a load and save, it's not going to change anything because I already had it there in the first place. I just had it twice. So we've made these changes. We've saved it up. Let's go ahead and let's publish them now. Let's actually get this back into our main working stream. Okay. So I'll close out of that. We've made our changes. Let's hit the publish, and we'll replace the existing one.
Oh, we just lost our published stuff.
Here we go. Let's see if the magic works. And so if I go and show in the main stream, it looks like, let's see if everything is there. And so looking at this app, we should see, yep, that regional fleet sheet's no longer there. The chart change I made.
That's the one that our VP uses every day of the week.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry I deleted it. He's probably going to open up a case and tell me to restore it. And you know what? That'll take me no time at all. And I'll show that in a little bit as well. But yeah, it looks like my changes across the board are there. We've got that demo bookmark. We've got that change I made to the sheet. Data, everything is there. The properties are all loading. So let's switch back. Let's switch back into Soterre and let's see what's happened here. And so I can choose to go to the timeline now, and let's give it maybe a refresh. And let me step out of here. Oops, sorry. Let me step back one level, because I actually want to see it from maybe this level. So if I were to say, let's check on the fleet surplus auction app, and maybe we click on the sheets here. Oh, well, my regional fleet's no longer. I've got a little symbol here, kind of like a stop sign saying it's not there any longer. So if I were to hover over and actually click onto that and maybe look at its timeline or its changes, we'll see, oh, it's been deleted 1 minute ago. Perfect. So that was published a minute ago. It was deleted.
Who did it? Who did it? I need to know who did that, because they're in deep doo-doo.
Well, you probably know it was me. You probably do know. And then, of course, we can restore it. I'll show a restore in a little bit, but let's go back to the timeline because now I know that this change was picked up. I want to see all the different changes that were picked up. So let's go back to the auction app itself and all of those changes. Looks like all of those across the board. And so I'm logged in as admin. That I was the one who deleted it. You'll see retired equipment. I changed that. A few different things got changed. That demo bookmark, we've got a version 1 because we added that bookmark in for the first time. And so you'll see this timeline just filled up very quickly. So from our last change a couple weeks ago, or a year ago, well, I'll kind of say that behind the scenes, but you'll see we've since then changed a lot of different things that kind of got updated. And each one of those were versioned individually. We didn't just version the entire app and say, okay, here's all these changes bundled into one thing. No, we versioned each and every one of them. So if I were to go to this individual object, I can restore maybe just this sheet, or I can restore this older version of just this this sheet.
Okay.
For this application, yeah. And so now let's talk about that scenario, right? Let's say Edwin says, hey, you know, I was actually going to use that regional fleets sheet today, but you removed it. Can you bring it back for me? And, you know, in the normal scenario, you'd say, oh man, now I need to republish that entire application, an old version of it. And I might have the latest demo bookmark that I created, or maybe I changed some of my sheets in there. It's not gonna have all those because I have to revert back to an old version or something. No. Let's not do that. Let's not do that at all. Let's just restore that one sheet.
Ain't got no time for that.
No, we don't. So what I can do is we've got this version that we have here, which was our deleted version. We've got the version right before the deletion. Let's just restore that back into the environment. And so I'm going to do a restore. This is going to use my credentials that I've logged in. I'm logged in as an administrator account, so I have all the right bells and whistles to be able to do this.
Okay.
We'll hit next. We'll see we're just restoring the sheet only. So if I preview, we're just restoring that one individual sheet.
I like that option. Let me just double check what is it I'm doing here. Okay.
And then we can choose to add, you know, tag to this, some reload behavior if we need to, if we want to, you know, create an.
Now, why would I want to do a reload or not do a reload?
Edwin, maybe you can go into that a little bit because we have a number of different options here.
Yeah, so it's not always needed to do a reload if you deleted the sheet, right? Because the data is there. But let's say we made a change to the load process, and that was not a good one, and we are missing data, and you know you see these crosses in sheets. Then I would say, okay, roll back that load process, but then immediately reload the data. So we give you several options in the restore, but also in the deployment to say, hey, yes, do this or not do that. There are customers that have apps that load for like 4 hours. You don't want to reload that immediately. You just want to
because you're adding a bookmark to the screen. No,
that's right.
Right.
So then in that case you don't. So you are flexible here on how to do that.
Nice. I like it. I like the option to do exactly what it is I need to do based on my knowledge of what I'm restoring. So all right, let's restore that thing. I don't believe it's going to actually be there.
We'll get the restore started, and it's going to be very, very quick. You'll see, because we're just putting the sheet back in place, so that really shouldn't take forever. It's not going to take that 4 hours to run or data load or anything. I'm just going to put that sheet back in place, and then hopefully it's there in real time, and I can show you when I jump back to the application, it'll be there. And so while we let that run for a little bit, I actually want to segue real quick because I was talking about comparisons. We talked a little bit maybe at the beginning about Get a Clock. I kind of want to show one of the features of Get a Clock while we've got some time. And so, you know, I could do my textual, you know, diffs between the two, you know, what has changed between my versions, and maybe do kind of, you know, at a JSON level or at a text level, you know, what do I think the changes are? But let's use Get a Clock here. And I can actually detect maybe some visual changes I've made to one of my apps in the past, and maybe some of the sheets I've made. So let's real quick segue into that.
Before you jump into that too much, Get a Clock is basically like Chrome extensions. Right? They're not extensions you installed in your environment. They're extensions in the browser.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that is right.
Yeah, and the beauty is that Get a Clock can talk with Soterre and can talk with QSDA Pro. So as a developer, you don't have to leave the Qlik interface. So you work in Qlik and you say, hey, I want to know this, or I want to do that, or I want to see the old version, I want to do this. Don't go from screen to screen to other applications. You don't need to go to Soterre every time. You just have get clock to say, hey, I want to see the difference here in the sheet. Somebody calls me and said, hey, Edwin, you changed that sheet, but I like the version of April, or was it March better? Because I think you changed something. What was it? And I'm like,
okay.
I know what I did in March or April. I'm sorry, I don't know what it looks like. And that is kind of the question that we will answer.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, so let's actually do that. So let's do what I'm going to call, or what actually it says right here is the diff viewer. I'm going to do a diff viewer on one of my sheets here. And what we're going to load up is how things currently look, and then the current version. And then we'll have previous versions that we can visually look at the differences between. And so
it just shows a timeline that you can just click on.
Yeah, just click on right here. And so, this is what it currently is. And this is, again, the current state. So let's select one of the versions to go back to. And then we can start to see, okay, well, current application state versus what it looked like in version 4. Oh, and then it highlights for me what has changed. In case I couldn't tell what has changed, it looks like the chart type has changed, right? It looks like we have line graph versus bar chart, something like that.
That's neat.
Or maybe I want to go back to an even older version because maybe I knew that this is the right type of chart, but maybe I know that some of the measures have changed, and so I can go back to these older versions and start to really jump into which version is the right version, which one's got the chart that I really want to use, which one's got the values, and then once I've made my decision over what it's highlighted here and kind of what looks to be the right one, I can choose to add the visualization to the current sheet. Or I can go to another one. Let's see. Let's go to one here. And maybe this is the right version. I can choose to, once I've selected the right version, I can do something just as simple. I think it's just to merge in. So maybe we'll go back to my version 4 here. And then I can view merge changes. And then once, okay, so this is the right version. It looks like this is what I should be adding. I can select each individual thing, or I can select everything to be merged in here. Maybe I just want to merge the type and maybe some values. Hit apply the merges, and then we can start to kind of copy over the things piece by piece. And once I'm done with all my changes, just apply the merge, and it'll go ahead and do that save over everything.
Very neat. Very neat.
Just real quick one, I wanted to segue into that, but let's jump back now to our app, which should have finished restoring that sheet here. And I want to actually verify, let's see, is that back into our main app in the data analysis stream? And so I'm going to click on it. Hopefully I'm going to pull a rabbit out of the hat here and show, well,
you're kind of on the line if it doesn't.
Boom, there it is, regional fleets. And if I open it, it's not just there in name, it's there. I can click it. Everything is working the exact way that it was before. So that me deleting it by, whatever means, whether it was an accident or I was told to, and then I was told to revert it, it's back. And it really took no time at all. Me segueing and showing that. Behind the scenes, it finished in like 10, 20 seconds. It was very quick to restore this one individual sheet.
That's very cool.
But more important, the other changes have not been affected. So maybe you can show that.
Yeah, so if I go back and show, I've still got my 6 bookmarks when I created that demo bookmark. If I go back and show that, what was it, that changed to the chart name here, I still changed it. It used to say colored, or color of retired equipment. It's the old name or the new name that I put in here. So I didn't have to revert those changes. I didn't have to redeploy the old version of the app. I just deployed that one change. Right.
That's nice. Yeah. And that, which is the hard thing to do usually for, multiple developer teams. Cause I've got the app and, like Edwin said, when we set the stage, I redeploy my app. I'm redeploying my app. And I don't have to. I could say, here's my new version of the screen, deploy my version of the screen, but not mess up Hugo's other screens.
Yeah, and we have, of course, certain tasks when you have to make major changes to an app, and that's not done overnight, right? It's not just you have to take the time to make major changes. If your data warehouse changed, you have to change your load process. There's work in progress going on. At the same time, a business user comes to you and says, "Hey, I want one sheet," and you give that to Hugo, and you keep on working on that. And then Hugo is ready with his sheets. Just deploy that sheet, merge it together, so he can work on his own branch. You merge that together, and it doesn't impact your work. It's not like no, you have to wait till Elton is ready because it's already in progress. And then the business user says, "Why? It's such a simple sheet that I asked you." No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's super cool. So. One of the other things is we got started, we looked at all the different connections that you had, How would I now? I've got this app. We'll say that this is in test or dev. How do I get this into production then?
Yeah, let's step through it. Let's step through a deployment, shall we? And so what I'll do is, if we were to look back into our environment, connected to, let's say, a dev and maybe a test. So let's go maybe jump into our test environment. Let's see if the app is there, because maybe it isn't there. And then let me log in, because it looks like my session did expire there. And we'll see if it actually is in there. If not, let's put it there. Let's actually deploy it. So I'm going to get into my test environment. You'll see it looks very similar to my dev environment. But if I look into my data analysis screen,
right? You've got another client managed server. Okay.
But in this test environment, you'll see if I go to my data analysis stream, that fleet surplus auction app is not there. So let's maybe do a first time deployment, and let's just move that across the board. And so it's going to be very quick. It's going to be very painless with Soterre. So I'll go ahead and
painless is good and quick is good too. So
yeah. So we'll go back into our streams. Let's go into data analysis. So we're doing this first in the dev side, and then we're going to see as it lands onto the test side.
Okay.
So this fleet surplus auction app, let's just click on the context menu, hit deploy. Very, very simple. We'll say the target environment. Target environment is going to be our test environment.
Okay.
Give our credentials. I'm already logged in, already authenticated, so we shouldn't have any issues there. Same thing as we were talking about before with the revert. Let's see what's going to be in this deployment. So if I hit this preview deployment, you'll see all the different artifacts, all the different objects that it takes to actually get this on the other side.
Okay.
And so we've selected all of those. Let's go to next. We talked about the reload behavior, if we wanted to add tags to this, and we talked about tags in just a bit. Issue tracking, maybe I want to add this back again to a case. And so I've got maybe a
case have to reload it, Brandon, otherwise you won't have data.
Oh, yeah, yes, you're right. I probably do want to select one. Let's do reload after deployment completion. And then, yeah, I'm going to track this on maybe one of my issues again. Maybe I've got an issue I've created for this saying deploy this to test. Well, I'm doing that now. Let's make sure we link it across the board. And then lastly here, I don't see it because, again, I'm an admin and I don't have the way that I've set things up. I don't have to request permission to do this, but this is also the screen where if maybe a developer does some changes and they've been told to do a deployment, maybe they can't just do the deployment right away. You can also add a review in there and say, maybe I need to ask one of my bosses for kind of permission to actually do this. They can review the change before actually the deployment kicks off.
Yeah, and interesting as well, if this is coming together with, let's say, changes in your ETL and in your data warehouse, because you have to add tables and views, etc., then you can save it and then let Jenkins kick it off together with the data warehouse changes and the ETL changes. So you can also make an API call to Soterre and say, this is part of a bigger picture, guys. This is not only the app. This is a whole deployment of business intelligence data warehouse. So you could save it as well, and then an API call can kick this off right after the changes in the ETL and in the data warehouse.
Yeah.
Wow, that's neat.
So yeah, run now, schedule, save, and kind of call via API, as Edwin mentioned. We've got a few different options. I'll run it now so we can kind of get things moving. I'll hit finish.
We need it. I've got QA people waiting to test this like right now.
Right now? Okay. In just a few minutes time, it'll be there. They're
lined up. But I think, like I said, we can make a very quick process. We can build in reviews. And when we talk about a QSDA Pro, we're working now on the integration where basically you could see, did everything pass the QSDA process as well? Because if I'm a reviewer, then I just want to know, did everybody do his job? So I want to know any of the apps that I deployed, are there still open issues with QSDA Pro that are not being addressed? Now I see then the results of QSDA Pro here when we have that integration. And at that time I could say, okay, that all passed. Or hey, there's one that didn't pass. Now, if I build that into the process, I have built-in quality. And I don't pass anything over. And if I'm a developer and I forgot to do that, it will be shown, it will be picked up by reviewers very, very easily, so that we don't bring anything to production that is not correct.
Nice.
Awesome. And it looks like kind of while we were having that discussion, this is completed. This deployment has finished. And so status, you'll see I've got a little plus sign. That means we've added it into that environment. So maybe I jump back into here. You'll see app list is outdated. Let's refresh. Voila. Looks like again, I pulled the rabbit out of the hat and we're here. We're in our test environment. That app has made it onto this side. And of course, we can kind of go through and see that things work. Everything loads the way that it should. We are here. Bookmarks are here. So everything that I published across it is here. And so now this was a successful deployment, and you saw it took you guys maybe a couple minutes just to have that brief discussion. And while that happened, behind the scenes, everything was running, everything was completed. We deployed 34 different objects to get this app running, and now it's there.
Nice. I like it. And of course, then if I were to look at that app and I don't see something, it could be because I need an extension. It is not on my test server that I didn't identify. Hey, that needs to get out there, because developers can go pull extensions, add them in QMC, and I want to do that in my app, but they forgot to document it somewhere.
Yeah.
And then you also know if that's an older version, or maybe there's an old version in your QA environment that's not syncing with your dev environment. They updated that, but they didn't put it in the deployment. Then you can pick that up, deploy that immediately, because you can see that, and you can make the diff between environments as well, so you can quickly see that. The last thing that we want to show is basically the BI over BI. So it comes with an app that collects our data. It's an example app. I think some people can build better apps than we do, but it gives you an impression of what you can get and what
I love it.
You can use.
And how does this work then? Do you have an API that reads data out of your metadata catalog or something?
Yeah, correct. So we load the data from our environment into here. I have customers that says, yeah, but I combine this, for example, with my ticket information as well. And then I can see who made the change and are there tickets related to that change. And I have one customer that don't have any internal developers, only external people. They work with 3 or 4 service providers, and they know which server provider is creating the most tickets in production and the most incidents in production. He says, I know everything, and that's how I manage my my Qlik environment. So you can use that change management data from Soterre, combine it with other data. And one of the examples that we did here is we combined it with the telemetry data from Qlik, and maybe you can show that as well, Brandon.
Yeah, let me see if I can jump over to that one, right? Oh, you know what? I'm still filtering there. There we go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is definitely extremely useful, right? If you're making changes along the way and you're noticing things are starting to slow down. Oh, no, I made a change that's all of a sudden taking up way too many resources or taking way too long to run. Maybe you can tie that change event to, you know, what we've got in the version control and see, okay, well, it was this change. It was me adding this new sheet, or it was me adding this measure. And so maybe I need to do some kind of remediations or fixes. And so this really helps you kind of narrow in on what was the problem? What, you know, what's made this spiral out of control?
Nice. I could see a recursive loop here where I made changes to my app that's monitoring my changes. And then that's a change that I need to monitor then in my app that's monitoring the changes.
Oh, yes.
I could have fun with that one all day.
It's like the mirroring that you do when you share your screen, right? But I think you're right. And but it's also the other question, because if there are incidents in IT, then the first question is what changed, but also what didn't change. So you also want to exclude certain things. So if I already can exclude, now this peak of RAM was not caused by a change, so I don't have to go into the load process or check certain things. No, that we can exclude that. So maybe it was on the data side. Maybe we have more data that was uploaded suddenly, and that caused a problem. So it's a lot about including and excluding possible causes of problems, and having change detection in place and relay that to each other. You can include or exclude and have some first indication where you have to look for to solve issues.
Right. Brandon, if you could go ahead and stop sharing your screen, buddy, we can just kind of wrap up with conversation. That way everybody gets to see our in all our glory.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And I imagine that you do have customers who have a lot of different servers, a lot of different environments, that the analytics tool that you just showed, can that pull in things from all of the different servers?
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have customers that, for example, host Qlik as an OEM to other vendors, right? So they say we have a server and we offer this as a service, our data as well. So they have different environments per customer, and they manage those environments through Soterre. So yeah, so we have some very good examples of connecting to a lot of Qlik environments, especially in the OEM or in the service providers that offer Qlik data as a service to their customers.
Sure. A lot of our partners do kind of do that thing where, that people wanted to be out in the cloud. They need that client managed environment, but they don't want to manage it themselves. And I could imagine that a tool like this that can tie all of these pieces together would help people at least quickly identify what was wrong. If it's not a coding change, we got to do a little bit more digging into some more logs. But if it is, we'd certainly find out. I appreciate you guys' time. That we covered a lot.
Ground, yeah.
The great news, the great thing, the reason I love doing these is because there is so much. Like if somebody wants to skip right to a specific section in Brandon's demo, go for it. Jump to the demo. Get to the flashy graphics demos, right? Get to the restore. But for those who really want to take it seriously, if you're having problems with your DevOps projects now, it's worth the hour of time to watch this entire thing and understand what is the rationale behind the way that Motio has implemented Soterre. To understand the rationale for why is it tied in with Git Clock, what is QSDA Pro going to add to that mix that's going to make things stronger for you. So I appreciate you guys being willing to take the time. I know you got a lot of customers and a lot of prospects you're trying to demo for, and I ask for a lot of your time, but I appreciate that. What's one last thing you'd like to say to everybody out there in Qlik world, Brandon, before you go?
I'd just like you to consider us, right? I mean, if you need assistance, if you've got questions and you need answers, we're here for you. Reach out to Motio. We got you.
I like it. I like it. And how about you, Edwin?
Drink your own champagne. That's what I say. That's what we have to do. Every BI director should do what they preach. Make sure that you manage your processes, the quality of your delivery, and go through that continuous process of optimizing and do better every day, because that's how you become better as an organization, and that's how we become better as an analytic organization and compete on analytics.
Nice. And I think the key thing that you mentioned at the beginning, kind of the story from the book, you can't do old-fashioned IT processes anymore. There's just too much of it in general, let alone when it comes to analytics, right? It's not just, analytics aren't just reports. That's what's really different about Qlik than other things, right? It's, ooh, I published this Excel sheet. All right, big deal. Yeah. I published this report. Ooh, wow. I published an app and there's 55 bookmarks and there's 83 extensions and there's all these variables and there's all these master dimensions and all these master items and there's stories and snapshots and something in there changed. What? Right? Because one variable could be impacting a bunch of dimensions, a bunch of measures, which could be impacting charts, which could be impacting stories. There's a lot to these apps, and being able to track that, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah, and the natural behavior of a manager is to put barriers into the process, like checks and breaches, and the only thing that does is create bureaucracy and slows it down. And instead of what we have to do is speed it up. We have to do it more often. And what they say is, if it hurts, you should do it more often, right? Because practice that creates excellence. And so the natural behavior is, oh, let's not do this. Oh, let's not do this. Somebody has to check it. No. Automate the process, automate your testing, automate the process so that it's predictable. And if you do that, you can deliver 10 times a day, like Eric told Bill Palmer in the Phoenix project. And that's what we should do as well.
Very good. Well, guys, I sure appreciate your time. And for all of those who you're out there watching these Dorkcasts, I sure appreciate you. Hope that you have a great day.